Good morning, everyone. I'm so thrilled that you have decided to come and be with us today. You have tuned in to the Center for Spiritual Living in Ukiah, California, and for today's virtual service. I am the Reverend Dr. Candace Beckett, and it is my great joy to welcome all of you here. This is and it looks right now like everybody has been coming, and I just want to thank you for being here. It means a lot to me, and it means a lot to our center for your ongoing participation. And what I know right now is that somewhere in today's service, whether it's in the treatment or the music or the message, that you're here and that you're going to receive the good that you are seeking. So I just want you to sit back and relax, and we'll start with enjoying our opening treatment, which this morning will be given by Victoria Wright.
Good morning. Oh, let's take a deep breath or two and let it out. And another one and let it just relax. Feel it, the relaxation flowing through the body. And one more. And here we are on another gorgeous morning in paradise. And knowing that we are one with the one creative force of the universe. That God is at the center and we are at the center at the same time. I know that there should be a constant expansion, a constant sense of joy in that expansion, an enthusiastic sense of adventure and the progress we're making, the unfoldment of spiritual awareness, the unfoldment of our awareness in our world, our community. Each moment brings me new opportunities to embrace and love. And each moment embraces me as I discover the wisdom that guides me and embodies the greatness of possibilities more great than I've ever realized that can manifest in my life now and in this center now. Spirit reveals its perfection in us, in our lives, in our bodies, and in our center. In each and every one, as we come together, we're living in a joyous spirit of adventure every moment of our life. And we take a deep breath as we celebrate and give thanks for all that is now unfolding in life for us, for our center, for everyone here present. And as we give this thanks, we realize that everything that we need comes easily as we let it. We focus, we let it go to divine mind, and it manifests because God says yes and yes. And we give great thanks that this is so as we release and let go and say together, and so it is.
Thank you. That was really beautiful.
That felt wonderful.
Okay, so now we're going to have our opening song. And so please welcome with me, Madge Strong.
Hello, it's good to be here. And I'm choosing a song that I wrote a bunch of decades ago on a full moonlight night. And it's a meditation on where we are in the great cosmos of things. Um, and I'm partly choosing this song because on Tuesday in the middle of the night, like Wednesday early morning, is going to be a full eclipse of the moon. And for those of you who like celestial events and trying to picture where we are on this planet in this enormous universe, this song is for you. It's hard to sing this early in the morning. 28 spins of days and nights it takes before the moon shines the full light of the sun in the night. As we spin a dance, a pulling gyro trance with our partner the moon, we keep on traveling. A pair of spinning orbs, we travel around the sun 365 days and a year is done, and all the planets following the sun on its ring around the Milky Way, a spiral of bright stars, each somewhat like ours, turning in space. As we spend our days of light and see the stars at night, each year we live and breathe upon the earth. Thanks be to the birds and bees, and to the grass and trees, and air and oceans that bring forth our lives. Let us be lovers to the moon and the sun and earth, and let us share the pain and joy of giving birth. 28 spins of days and nights it takes before the moon shines the full light of the sun in the night, and all the planets following the sun on its ring around the Milky Way, a spiral of bright stars, each somewhat like ours, turning in space, in space.
Oh, that was fabulous, Matt. Really beautiful. Thank you so much. Okay, so I want to introduce you to our speaker, and I realize that many of you already know Lynn because she has spoken at our center before. But it is my great pleasure to just tell you a little bit about the Reverend Lynn Fritz. Maybe some of the things you don't know about her and her ministry. Reverend Lynn is an ordained CSL minister, and she is in a category which we call focus minister. Well, focus minister, if you don't know, means that it is not the traditional in a building at a pulpit like the ministry that I have. Instead, she's outside of the box, and her focus is pretty diverse. She actually does several things that I would say, to give you an overview, just some of what she does currently. She is the chair of the Shasta Interfaith Association, and that's an association of 23 faith communities in Shasta County. She is also or part of what she does, she also does a weekly radio show called Enjoy Exceptional Living. So that sounds pretty cool. She is also a licensed marriage family therapist. She is in private practice and has a thriving practice. So she's a pretty busy lady. She is also a Karuk tribal descendant, which means, she's Native American, and that group, that tribe is, I think, up in Northern California. She can correct me if that's not right.
Oh, that's right.
But what I love about Lynn is she has been an amazing friend to me and to David. And I've known her since pre-ministry, I think maybe for both of us, but definitely for her. And one of the best things she ever did for me just personally was she talked me into my maiden voyage of doing whitewater rafting. And she took David and I and another person, so 4 of us, and our guide were in a raft, and we were rafting in a place called Hell's Hole. And it was pretty exciting on the Trinity River. And here I am. I survived it. And I totally am grateful to Lynn for being willing to introduce me to something like that. It was great. So her topic today is practicing the science of mind. So please welcome with me, Reverend Lynn Fritz. Lynn.
So good to be here. I miss you guys. When this COVID thing gets all behind us, I want to come visit in person. And I must tell you that rafting on the Trinity River through Hell's Hole, the raft goes completely under the water. And so the big great news is Candace and David both stayed in the boat. Lived to tell the story. Ernest Holmes, what a remarkable man. One of my favorite quotes that he shares with us, true imagination is not fanciful daydreaming. It's fire from heaven. So that's kind of what we're looking for today, fire from heaven. As we come together and bring our imagination as a community this morning, but also as we are light to the world. There's a lot going on in the world, isn't there? So I want to encourage us just for a moment, if you're comfortable, to close your eyes. Victoria got us started this morning. When we close our eyes, we access the emotional system. And it is the emotional system that is part of our guidance, our navigation system in this lifetime. So it's very important we have that, access to that. So let's take another breath in together. Releasing it, we invite the presence of Spirit into the space of this conversation this morning, into the space of this community. This is sacred time. For all gathered here are sacred human. Dan Siegel, he's a neuroscientist. Our scientists can't tell us what mind is. They contemplate it, they research it, they don't know where it's at, and they haven't settled on a specific definition. So notice how Ernest Holmes so long ago delved in, not only spoke and taught about mind, but held that consciousness that we can share in today, brought the teaching forward to us. So what's remarkable about Dan Siegel is he teaches that I have a mind, each of us has a mind, but whenever we come together as a community like this, we create a unique mind together that is shared by all of us here today. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of us. There's 9 of us creating a unique mind that'll never be experienced again, but in this moment. And he's a neuroscientist. He's a good friend with Jack Kornfield. You might say he was influenced by Jack Kornfield. I want us to look around at our culture today. Anybody ever hear of the Southern Poverty Law Center? Yes, good, good. So they're a nonprofit organization. They've been around since the 60s. They are an advocacy group. They are research-based. They also form litigation, standing up for wrongs, for prejudice, discrimination, advocating for peace and nonviolence. They have a long history of doing such. You can go online and look at their website. And one of the things I find fascinating, I don't know if any of you have tuned in there lately, but they show us that in the United States in 2020, there's 838 hate groups that they have found. 72 groups in California alone. 13 of those groups are statewide, meaning if you live in California, there's influence, whether we're far north like we are, or if you're in Southern California. So were any of you aware of that previously, those hate groups that they track? We also look at all the unrest in our nation, attack on the Capitol, the mass killings. The unrest in Shasta County is prevalent so that we've made national news. I don't know if you've read about it. Unfortunately, because we have a lot of the alt-right consciousness in our community. So what I want us to think about and recognize is here we are in California, and we might think that we're a small gathering of a few people this morning. But California is the 5th largest economy in the world. There's 58 counties in California. Mendocino, of which Ukiah is, there's 2 centers, Ukiah and Mendocino, right? 2? Yes.
Yeah.
So I see those as very important and significant because it's light in a dark world. And sometimes because of who we socialize and who we interact with and the consciousness we share as a community, we may witness in the news some of the discord we see, but we're kind of in some ways sheltered because of who we hang out with. So I think it's important that we stay attuned to what's happening, not only in our community, our homes are important too, but our nation, our state, our global community. Think about this. In our lifetime, we've been going through a pandemic. We have a large percentage of people in Shasta County that don't believe that that pandemic is true, that it's a conspiracy. So we have a lot of anti-maskers. We have high rates of COVID. We've had people threaten our elected officials and our public health officer with harm because they don't like the message they bring. So I'm asking us as a community today to pause for a moment and think about how was I introduced to this teaching? Think back. First introduction. How many were raised in the teaching? Can you raise your hands? And how many came in contact? Thank you. I knew those 2 would. How many came in contact through the teaching because of Ukiah, Center for Spiritual Living? Thank you. Today in Redding, California, the person that introduced me to the teaching has been co-pastoring with a friend at the Center for Spiritual Living in Redding. And Mary Mitchell, the person that introduced me to the teaching, is retiring from co-pastoring the Redding Center. It was in probably about the early 90s that she invited me to the center. And from that introduction, that very first time terrified me. Do you know why? Because I knew it would change my life. I was going to an evangelical community. It took me a year to return, but I remember the talk I heard. It went with me wherever I went as I was praying to God that I needed to make a change in my life, and I was willing to go any place in the world for that change. I was praying for my spiritual journey to be enhanced. I needed greater freedom. I needed greater connection to the sacred. I was completely surprised when it was in my own community at the Center for Spiritual Living, then the Religious Science Center. My first contact was hearing Reverend Jane Ryder Howard speak. The first song I ever heard was Shri Ram. They were just significant places, landmarks in time. So I think it's important for us to reflect always upon that first encounter. What drew me to the teaching? So I want you to think back. I'm going to invite you just for a moment to close your eyes and to think about the teaching. What spoke to you? What spoke to me was like the theme of the organization, awakening humanity to its spiritual significance. What spoke to me? Ask ourselves, what spoke to me? When you have it clearly in your mind, raise your hand so I can tell. What spoke to me? Okay, thank you. After the service today, I'd like to hear from you about what that is, each of you. Because I know that just as all of us here this morning have been impacted by the teaching, I want to remind us of Ukiah Center for Spiritual Living, what you have on your website. It says, the center, its ministers, and its congregation are committed to serve and support the people of this community and the world. Wow, that's pretty cool. Bravo, bravo. You know, Jesus, he said, after doing great miracles, walking on water, healing the sick, rising Lazarus from the dead, he said we would do things even greater than that. And Center for Spiritual Living Ukiah has been in what I would call as a space of transition, moving from the leadership of Dr. Candace Beckett and inviting new leadership in, a journey. And so I want us as a community this morning to think about that true imagination is not just fanciful daydreaming, it's fire from heaven. And that we source what we have encountered as a sacred human to come to the teaching, to unite and bring that energy together, to reach out across the state, perhaps the nation, perhaps the continent, perhaps the ocean, the one ocean and the world, to invite a new spiritual leader into the community. we can link and create that consciousness, that unique mind this morning. So let us think for a moment. Ernest Holmes said it takes thought and the energy of emotion. That's why it's so important, because when I close my eyes, I'm accessing the emotional system of who I am as sacred human. So when we experience the unrest of our nation, any unrest in our families, and unrest and within ourselves, it's important that we go back to that touchstone. We carry it within us, but sometimes we get so distracted and weighed down by life itself that it's easy to lose the contact, the emotional connection to it. You know, Ernest Holmes said, the spiritually minded are surrounded by an atmosphere of reality, the very presence of which heals. It's one of my favorite sayings of his. So each of us carries that presence to heal ourselves, to heal our community, to invite a new minister in, to invite new people in. Can you imagine if your life had come in contact with a teaching earlier, how things might have been? Pretty awesome, wouldn't it be? Think of Jesus. He was a heretic, wasn't he? Maverick. He challenged the religious leaders. They didn't like him. Why? Because he stood in contrast. We stand in contrast to the world. That's that Christ consciousness we carry with us. So sometimes we want to go, well, I'm not sure I carry that same ordination or calling that the Christ one did. We all do. And let's not lose sight of it. Because I am, you are, each of us are light to the world, agents of change. And to feel the energy of that within us, pulsating through our very vascular system, every cell, 53 trillion cells, has that energy and consciousness and knowing. So when we get fatigued, when we get tired, when we get discouraged, we must practice the science of mind. We must come together and cheer each other on, right? It's not always an easy road, is it? So it's very important we take care of each other. You guys have been doing a remarkable job of staying connected. So today, after conclusion of our service, I want to spend just a little bit of time with you addressing any questions or thoughts or challenges that we as this group of people can in consciousness work to resolve, work to heal. You know, I also like Rumi. One of his quotes that I dearly am inspired by. And I think this is the consciousness that I try to approach not only my everyday life, but try to share with larger community, try to put out there in my ministry into community. He said, you've probably heard this, beyond ideas of wrongdoing. How many know this? And right doing, there is a field. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. And he said, I'll meet you there. I know that the Center for Spiritual Living Ukiah has been pivotal in my life. I frankly don't know that I would be in ministry if it hadn't been for Candace sponsoring my license. She supported me, helped me hold the vision for my ministry till I was fully licensed. I visited you on a number of occasions, and every time I've visited with you, I come away with new energy of saying, yes, there's a light there in Mendocino. There's a light there in all the controversy of the world. I think the Centers for Spiritual Living around the world are imperative to the well-being of humanity. And so no matter what we face today, all the unrest in our nation, all the discord, such a dilemma we have with racism, institutional racism. Think about the Centers for Spiritual Living, the place of welcoming, no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, no matter where you're going. There's a complete welcoming. That is very unique. I'm used to talking to people when I'm speaking. So it's very different for me on Zoom because it makes it hard because of the microphones to do that. I respect you immensely because you showed up this day in support of Centers for Spiritual Living Ukiah, in support of the consciousness that Ernest Holmes was pointing to, that created the science of mind, part of the New Thought movement. And when I think of New Thought and the Centers for Spiritual Living and Science of Mind, I look at its global impact. There was one of the ministers, Candace may know, that was recently inviting ministers from the Center for Spiritual Living to participate in the Parliament of World Religions, which historically we have. They're doing a virtual gathering here soon. It is fascinating and beyond comprehension. I'm so enthused when I go to the Parliament of World Religions and I see the diversity. I mean, just the clothing alone, let alone the practice and the sharing of each one. From Jane Goodall, who has worked in the jungles with primates for a very long time, to people from the Mideast, to Africa, to Australia, I mean, around the world, indigenous, so many expressions of Buddhism. My first contact with the tradition of the Jains. So I think Ukiah has 5 Buddhist communities. Yes, that's the count. I have Buddhist friends, so they were telling me about that. So you're in good company. Don't lose heart. Keep sending out that energy, that invitation to draw in the right and perfect minister, pastor. So I am Swedish and Native American. Have to give my mom equal time. My dad is Hupa and Karuk. And because of government regulations, natives can only register with one tribe, enroll with one tribe. So my dad selected the Karuk. So in our closing prayer, I want to do more of a traditional Native American prayer. And for me, I think of God. You know, I want you to think of what do you hold sacred when you identify God, good, universal life, universal energy, the cosmos. For me, I use the term spirit or great spirit. And so I want you to think, what is my sacred term for that sacred energy? So I'm going to invite us into prayer, affirmative prayer, in the Native American way. So I invite you to close your eyes if you're comfortable, taking a long, slow, deep breath in, relaxing into the sacred together. We offer this prayer to Creator, the Great Spirit, expressed as Grandfather Sky, Grandmother Earth, to all our ancestors, to the two-legged, the four-legged, the winged creatures, the rocks and minerals, to even our brothers and sisters of the insect world, all the plant life, the life that fills our waterways, and to the life-sustaining sacredness of water itself. We offer this prayer and blessing this day. I am sacred human. We are sacred human. We, those who are connected and have a history and legacy with the Center for Spiritual Living, Ukiah. You recognize and know that all of life in all its many expressions, the inanimate as well as the animated, the visible and the invisible, all are sacred. And as we come together this day and formulate a new mind, a new gathering, a new energy, from this gathering, we send out across this virtual expression of spirit, across the community of Ukiah, across the county of Mendocino, the state of California, these United States, across the one ocean and across our globe into the cosmos. Peace and healing. A call to live life ordained of spirit, ordained of peace, calling forth a pastor for this community. Encouragement in many expressions and forms to each one, to each member, a revitalization that not only has caused the ability and capacity to move through the pandemic, but a resurgence of energy, whether we gather virtually or in person. We are linked by consciousness. We are linked by purpose. We are linked by healing. And I and we give thanks for this teaching that has been transformative of our lives, that has caused our consciousness and our very being to understand its capacity not only to exist within the temple of the physical, but we are eternal beings, spiritual beings first. We remember our calling as we move through this day and through this lifetime, energized by means of spirit, giving thanks for the challenges of life that has shaped and transformed us, as well as the beautiful things and the powerful things that have helped us to heal, the friendship, the love, the direction and oversight of the pastor for many years, Candace. that awaits a new leadership. And together, I and we offer this prayer and blessing. Send forth this call. Giving thanks, we release it into the love and law of the Great Spirit. And so it is. Aho. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. That was amazing. Oh gosh. That's a keeper, and I'll definitely be going back and listening again. And if you guys see anybody out in town that would like, tell them, because they can go to YouTube, they can go to Facebook and see this in a little while. So it would be great. Oh, I so appreciate you. Thank you so much. And so now it's time for our offering. So again, as always, I just want to thank all of you so much for, continuing to contribute and make this center possible, what we're doing today and what we'll be doing in the future. So for right now, let us just consider that gift as we say together our offering affirmation. So please say with me now: divine love through me blesses and multiplies this gift. With all my heart and with all my mind, I know I am saying yes to something I value. With all others present here, we dedicate these gifts to the values and visions we share. Okay, thank you so much. I got to move this over here. I moved all my notes out of the way so I could watch Lynn. It was great. We do have some announcements, and before I get too much, before I do the announcements, I just want to do a little sharing and give you, if you choose to take it, an assignment. And both Lynn and Madge kind of hit on this for me. It was Lynn talking about the hate groups and the need to bring light into the world as part of this. And the other thing was when Madge talked about that Tuesday is a lunar eclipse, and that you can, also open your heart in a new way on that evening. And I want to add to that, that Tuesday is also the 1-year anniversary of George Floyd's murder. So what I'm longing to do, and so this is your assignment, and you're invited to do this with me, is to consider what you've learned through this past year about, what's going on for us, but what you've learned. How have you grown in this last year around any of the things: pandemic, racial inequity, social inequity, how money is spent, but just spend a little bit of time just kind of taking it all in, because that moment for us was such a catalyst, at least it was for me, to consider and maybe do things a little differently in my world and my life than how I've done it before. So take some time and bring some light into Tuesday. Okay, and then for our other announcements, these are still kind of the same, but our next steps, we do appear to be getting closer to being able to reopen the center. And in order to do that, we are looking at and trying to figure out how to do both live and virtual services. There's been a lot of discussion about, do we need to do it virtually still? And I think that at this point, the answer is yeah, we do. And if we want to continue bringing in guest speakers, we also need to be able to project them in the sanctuary if they are unable, like now Lynn, because she's in Reading, she can come be with us. But the person in Rhode Island, that was Gina, right? And she might not be able to just jet out here but maybe, who knows? But I want to be able to continue to have great guest speakers. And so we want to have that option. And plus, we do have people, one of them is here with us today, Jack, who is not able to come to church. And so we want to be able to include them. So we're looking very diligently at how to live stream a service from the center. And just in case, if you notice, Mary Hooper is not with us today, and that's because she's at the Methodist Church checking out how they do it and seeing if she can get some encouragement or, advice from their audio guy, their audiovisual guy. So we still are looking at what kind of equipment we'll need. And, if you want to be a part of that discussion, you need to email me, or you can call the center. I have a couple of times put in newsletters to contact me directly. And what happens is if it's been in the newsletter, that originates on the church's email. So I don't see it until I go into church, which I don't go very often. So please, if you have a question or something, just email me directly and I'll try to help you out. And we'll see what you could do to help participate in next steps. I will tell you the selection committee has reformed and there are 5 people on it, which includes me. I'm the 5th person, but I'm on it kind of ex officio. It's really going to be up to the other 4 to make the decisions, like what's the profile going to state and things like that. And then also be the ones who receive any kind of applicants that are candidates that come our way. They'll be the ones that are looking at them and talking about it. So it would be perfectly okay to have another person on that. If you're interested in that, contact me directly, and that would be really helpful. Some of the other ways that you can support the church that we've been talking about and will continue to talk about until September 1st, because that will be, my last day as your GAP minister is August 31st, because I've been doing, and I will have been doing this for a year. It doesn't mean that I'll disappear. I'll still be helping with services, and particularly while we help people get more comfortable with how to monitor a service, things like that. I'll be around for that, and I'm going to stay on the board for at least the rest of the year, and we'll just see. But in the meantime, there's lots of things that we need to start considering who's going to do this when I'm not here. And one of them is the newsletter. And I had written recently in the newsletter, I said, this takes about 60 minutes once a week to compile an email. It really can be pretty easy, just, if you're comfortable with doing that kind of thing. And you can do it from your home, because we can get you the church's email so that you can go in and do it from there. And I did get one suggestion. I didn't have anybody step forward, but one of the suggestions was maybe we do it every other week or even once a month. And because we often do know about a month ahead who the speakers are, that we could just list them all. And so that's an option. Like right now, I'm totally okay with doing it once a week, but whoever takes over, if they would be more comfortable with doing it every 2 weeks or once a month, that's an option for you. The Facebook thing, that is mostly monitoring. You just kind of go on, see if anybody has left a message for us. But there are a couple other things. You do list events. So like this gets listed, Sunday service gets listed every week. But it's really pretty easy because it's done, and you just kind of change the last event to the new week. And so anyway, there's that. And you're perfectly invited to do what I call reminders, where you find some cool meme and post it on there. But that doesn't take very long. That's basically, if you're just posting events, right now we only have one event, which is Sunday, so it'll only take you 10 minutes maybe. YouTube is a little different that because we will be posting, as we will every Sunday, we post our Sunday services. But again, it's not very hard. It's a little more time, but it's the actual program, because when you start to download it, it takes it like almost as long as the talk was. It takes it that long to download, but it's pretty easy to, and I would totally support whoever would like to do that. I'm surprised because I mean, some weeks we only get like 2, 3, but a lot of weeks we're getting over 10, which are almost always people that haven't been here. And we've had several weeks where we're having 14 people. So whatever you see here, you have to add on those people as part of who are participating in our services and seeing things. And so that's why YouTube, I think, will continue to be important for us as we move forward. So also, I do want you to know that Mary Hooper, I did say this last week, but just so you know, Mary Hooper has resumed scheduling speakers and soloists. So if you will be hearing from her if you're a soloist, and you will be hearing from her if you're a speaker. And if you would like to be a speaker, you should probably reach out to me first, and then I can, because I'm kind of putting the list together for her. But right now we have almost 20 people on the list. Most of those, like half of those, or at least, are students, ministerial students. But hey, we've liked the ones we've seen so far, so we'll just get going. So if you're interested in any of that, please contact me directly, and I'll let you know what you can do, or answer any questions you have. And as always, we are still doing our part to help out with building bridges, which is the homeless shelter here in Ukiah. And Teresa is still willing, and she's on today. So Teresa is still willing to collect things. They have been asking for blankets and sleeping bags, comfy shoes and sandals, which in the past we haven't really seen a lot of that. It's been paper products, cups, you know, and but they also are really looking for totes, is what it says on the list. They sent totes for storage, but also like U-Haul boxes or moving boxes, because there are people that are trying to move into permanent housing, and they need something to move their stuff. If you have any other questions about that, please call Teresa and talk to her. But you can drop off things with Teresa. You could drop things off with Judy or Trudy Morgan, or you can just take the stuff yourself. And when you get down there to Building Bridges, just call them, and one of their volunteers will come out and unload your car. So it's pretty simple. So, okay, that's it for announcements. So Madge, are you ready to sing?
Yes, I am. And I just, sorry, takes a moment to manipulate this, what's on the screen. I wanted to just put the lyrics for the song that I'm about to sing in the chat. So I encourage you to sing along on this one. And it can be a 2-part round. So once you really get it, we'll do each part twice, and then I'll do it again, and I'll do it again. But then you can, if you want, if you've got either one of those parts down, you can try singing them on top of each other, and that's really cool. And I just love, even though we don't get to hear each other, that we can sing together by listening to one person and then singing along with them. And I've been doing this now the whole year of pandemic, and it's not quite as good as singing together, but it is damn good. So the other song I sang was sort of taking us out into the cosmos, and this one is bringing us right into ourselves, and it kind of goes with what Reverend Lynn brought us as well. This is by Heather Pearson wrote this song. So please sing along if you can. You can just sing with me if you aren't comfortable doing it as a round. That's fine as well. I'm coming home to the wisdom in my bones. In my bones, I'm coming home to the wisdom in my bones. I'm coming home to the wisdom in my bones. In my bones, I'm coming home to the wisdom in my bones. I long for rest. I long for peace. I'm coming home to the wisdom in my bones. I long for rest. I long for peace. I'm coming home to the wisdom in my bones. I'm coming home to the wisdom in my bones. In my bones, I'm coming home to the wisdom in my bones. I'm coming home to the wisdom in my bones. In my bones, I'm coming home to the wisdom in my bones. I long for rest. I long for peace. I'm coming home to the wisdom in my bones. I long for rest. I long for peace. I'm coming home to the wisdom in my bones. I'm coming home to the wisdom in my bones. In my bones, I'm coming home to the wisdom in my bones. I'm coming home to the wisdom in my bones. In my bones, I'm coming home to the wisdom in my bones.
Thank
And
you, Madge.
yeah, I'm also going to make one other announcement, and that is it's a ways off. It's a month off, but on June 22nd, Inland Valley is sponsoring a summer solstice community sing along. We've always done the winter one for 20 some years, but this year, because we can do it by Zoom, we're doing the summer solstice on June 22nd. And I'll put in the chat here my contact, and I can send you an announcement and how to join that. But it's open to everybody, not just women singers, but all singers. And it's definitely a sing along. And it's to celebrate the solstice and also earth honoring songs and spirit lifting songs. So I'll put my email in here. And if you want more info, please contact me.
Well, and I'd also be happy to put that in our newsletter,
Oh, good.
next week or the week after, just as we get a little closer to it. I did the winter solstice one. I've done the live ones a few times with Madge and in the forest, but this last winter it was virtual, and I had a blast doing it. It was so much fun. And yeah, you can't really hear other people, but she has several people leading songs, and they're better at this than I am. So they put words up so you can sing along, and it was so much fun. And Mary Buckley and I, who most of you know, we actually were communicating a little bit just in privacy with the chat, because one of her grandchildren were just connecting. It's just wonderful. But anyway, think about it, because it's a great thing. And in the meantime, I just want to thank you again for coming and being a part of the program. And if you can stay, please do, and visit with Lynn and see if you can answer her request. So I love you all. Namaste.